You're listening to a CNA podcast.
Oh wow, that looks interesting. Sorika,
I would like one crab fried rice, please.
is this a fresh squid, right?
Yeah.
I can eat it fresh?
Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to try.
Thailand's street food scene is legendary. Some say it's a fundamental part of Thai culture. Pad Thai, pork skewers, mango sticky rice. It can be a multi-sensory overload. Street stalls and night markets are hot. They're buzzing with activity, and you're elbow to elbow with others as you hear sizzling oil and smell aromatic spices in the air. But what if those food stalls were replaced with open-air food courts? It's an idea being floated in Bangkok as officials work to clean up the streets and bring in Singapore-style hawker centers. I'm Teresa Tang. CNA Correspondent Jack Board spoke to people who make their livelihood in this culinary space, and he joins me to tell us what lies ahead for them. Hi, Jack.
Hi, Teresa. Always happy to be here. Always happy to talk about food.
Yeah, great to speak to you again. And I know you have been based in Bangkok for a while now. How many years has it been?
About 6 years, 6.5 years now. Yeah,
Six and a half years. Wow. Okay, so in that time, I'm pretty sure you've had your fair share of the city's epic street food. I'm pretty boring. I personally love just grilled corn on the cob. It's so good. What's your go-to?
It's pretty hard to choose a favorite, I have to say, because this is what Bangkok and Thailand is all about, really. It's the street food. It's epic. It's legendary, I think the word that you used. And in my opinion, I think you have to search pretty far and wide elsewhere to find a culinary scene that's so exciting, it's so varied, it's spicy, it's steeped in tradition, and always delicious. Now, I don't know why you've chosen corn on the cob. It feels like a pretty uninspired choice of all the things available here, like corn. But having said that, and I do mention it in the story, I had some pretty excellent corn from an elderly couple that was selling this grilled corn right on the street at Victory Monument, which, if you know Bangkok, is right in the middle of the city. It's this huge roundabout with buses and traffic and noise and lots of protests there in the past. Mm-hmm. And they've been there for 4 decades. They're in their 70s. They bring their little stall out to the roadside. They lather the cobs in coconut milk and palm sugar and salt, and they grill them over the charcoal. Actually, really delicious.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. I was surprised. But for me, it's hard to go past pad kapow, which is the holy basil, chili, garlic, oil, fish sauce. I like it with beef and a fried egg, sizzling on a hot wok. And this is your quintessential Thai dish. Anywhere you go in the country, you can find it. People of all kinds of people in society are eating it. It's the essence of Thai eating, of Thai flavors. So I'm going with that. But there are lots of contenders, obviously.
I know, it's a tough question. There was a statistic in your report that really surprised me. And that was that for the 2 years that led up to October of 2024, some 10,000 food vendors were taken off the streets in Bangkok. That's not a small number, Jack. What happened to them? Why?
Yeah, it's definitely not a small number. And doing the research for this, it did surprise me that the number was so high. Essentially, the Bangkok city government has stepped up its efforts to do a few things. They want to promote orderliness. That's the words that they've used. They want to improve food safety, cleanliness standards. They want to support low-income Thais. So this isn't new either. Under the military-led national government of Prayut Chan-o-cha, these efforts kind of kicked off after it staged a coup back in 2014. And shortly after that, it was announced that, okay, vendors that are operating on the city streets have to move away, or you have to relocate to certain designated areas. And in short, it was all about order. And at that time, there were hundreds of areas that got cleared. And we kind of saw the slow cleaning up of the crazy streets. And then we got to COVID. And as we emerged after that, tourism started coming back, and the BMA again pushed to make sure that these standards were being maintained. And as you know, the streets of Bangkok can be crazy at the best of times. So while that is part of the character of the city somewhat, the authorities don't want dysfunction. So they've introduced a bunch of new rules that will limit the number of street food vendors across the capital. And that means that vendors are only allowed to set up in certain areas. Only Thai citizens on welfare are allowed to take on this work. and they want to ensure that only low-earning Thais can operate in these spaces. And then they're also managing the physical space. You can't be blocking pedestrian areas.
Yeah.
There are some size limitations about the stalls. And generally, there does seem to be this sort of foreshadowing of the day where street vendors might be gone altogether, though it might take some time, I think.
That's so hard to imagine. And when you think of thriving food scenes, a lot of people think of Singapore, right? That's where I'm based. Singapore is known for its hawker centers. And for those who aren't familiar, they're basically these open air, sheltered food hubs where food is really tasty. It's really affordable as well. And it's an entire experience on its own. And it works here. But Jack, would it work in a place like Bangkok, right? Because, part of the appeal of street food is that it's decentralized and it's sort of messy.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different to what you have in Singapore. And I think Singapore really does have a unique thing going with the hawker centres there. I was also living in Singapore before, been to my fair share of hawkers, and they do work. They do work in the Singapore setting. And it feels really ingrained into local food culture there. And I guess they've developed, for the same reasons, why Bangkok is increasingly looking to make its own hawker centre or being inspired by Singapore, and that is solving these urban challenges that occur when food is unregulated and when it's unorganised and all the issues that come with that. So I think in Singapore as well, the hawker centres have become places not only for locals to eat, but little tourism hotspots too. So if you're a visitor, you can come to one organised place, you can sample everything you might want to try. You're guaranteed that there's going to be some level of cleanliness and hygiene. Now, will that work here? I think we can already see some really early iterations of the Singapore-style hawkers starting to come, but they're more kind of like food markets, I'd say, or you see night markets pop up in semi-permanent fashion. Some of these do have a nice vibe, but others I've been to still miss the mark. I think what's important is you have to bring the character of the street, the vibe, the fun, the experimentation, some of that grittiness, the dirtiness.
Yeah, grittiness.
To some
extent.
extent.
That's the word,
Yeah, to the more sanitized version of the original. I think that's the challenge. And I think one important thing to remember is that these are spaces not primarily for tourists. This is where local people eat. So it has to serve them. This is what some Thais are saying.
In Thailand, Thai people are snacking all the time. Speaking from experience, when I see a market, I'll hit there immediately. There are plenty of choices, and it's in our tradition. We see it this way since we were born and grew up. So I think this is the charm of Thailand. If we lose it, it'll be weird, because we have seen it since our parents' time.
Actually, I'm comfortable with walking around the streets to buy food, if they're all grouped in the same location. If it's like a centralized market, I feel like it would be stuffy to walk around. That's what I think.
So those folks who have been cooking on the street their entire lives, for those who don't know anything else, like you said, that one corn vendor was there for, 30, 40 years? What's the scene like for them these days? We know Bangkok is a major tourist draw, and I'm wondering if they're still seeing the type of foot traffic and, selling enough skewers to have a decent life in the city.
Honestly, I think it's pretty tough for them out there right now. The Thai economy is not doing great. The cost of living has gone up a lot in recent years. The tourism sector is not doing very well. I have a story just out about that if you want to read that as well. I got to speak to a few of them for this photo essay that we did. And my Thai is only just okay, but I can definitely order all of the food. But I went with my colleague Mai. We had some more in-depth chats and we had plenty to eat just to kind of better understand what they're going through. And not all of them have been doing this their entire lives. Some of them have turned to selling food as something on the side. They do it in the evenings. One guy we spoke to, he was a school teacher. He started making food from his home province in eastern Thailand after his wife lost her job. And he enjoys cooking. It gives them some more income, so they started to do it. Others, though, it is actually all that they know. A lot of the sellers out there are elderly. I think they're the ones who are doing it the toughest, because they might not be selling food that's attractive or trendy or Instagram ready for tourists. Their trade is for locals. And when there's less money flowing around in the economy, it's these types of street snacks or little indulgences on your way home from work that regular people might cut back on a little bit. There was one lady I met, her name was Pontip. She was 60 years old. She sells little Thai meatballs, little things on sticks, little deep fried treats by a pretty busy bus stop. And most of her customers are students. She makes about $20 a day selling that. It's really not enough to support her family. And strictly, she's probably one of the vendors operating in a place that the authorities don't want. But it seems like there's also this unspoken leniency that's happening to not move on some of these stalwarts, the older generation who've been in place for so long. Yeah, so it's tough for them. And I think, again, we have to remember this is not just about tourism. Many of these food sellers are really there to make a living selling meals at a cheap price at an available spot for local people. And if that all gets shipped up and gets moved into an air-conditioned hall or something, it kind of changes things. And I think there's a chance that many Thais can get left behind if that's the case.
Exactly. And that makes me wonder, what impact would a move to these hawker-style centers have on these vendors in terms of cost, in terms of opportunity? And I was reading something very interesting. Some comments saying, look, the cost of paying rent in a sanctioned food facility would be higher than paying the fines these vendors probably get ticketed with.
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. It's a fair consideration for them. Certainly, it's like some of these vendors will be definitely reluctant to move. Like the elderly couple in their 70s selling corn, they're simply not going to do that. They'd rather pack up their stall and retire,
call it a day,
than get moved somewhere else. And there is this perceived financial drain of the fixed costs of a stall. And I think that's a concern for many of them. Although a lot of them do pay for their spots on the street. Right now, they pay to the BMA for the permit to operate where they are. They don't know how long that will stay in place. And others do tell me that they pay small bribes to dodge getting fined. You know, they just give some money to make sure someone is looking the other way. There are other considerations as well about being taxed or having businesses that have to be formally registered when they haven't done that in the past. I think there's also fears that they will lose their community, the community is their customer base. The same people around them all the time in their nearby shops or stalls, or the motorcycle taxi riders they've come to know over the years. There's a displacement that happens. And in a world where you see community being eroded, you can see why holding on to that is something important for some of them. The pros, I guess, could be exposure. You could have foot traffic, places with ventilation, electricity, other infrastructure, but there are definitely risks and sacrifices that I have to make. I just hope that we don't end up seeing this generation of iconic street food sellers that have created this incredible soft power for Thailand. They fill the stomachs of millions of people every day and just disappear and be replaced with something that's less authentic.
Okay, then what, if anything, stands in the way of these hawker-style centers coming to town? You know, do you have any sense of when they could be operational? And generally, what is your sense of how Thais feel about this idea?
I think there are multiple challenges to getting the Singapore-style setup really going. I think one of them is what I was just talking about, which is the resistance of the vendors themselves, who are fearful about what the changes might be for them. And the cleanup efforts of the streets, although we've spoken about 10,000 people taken off and it's been going on for many years, really it's only yielded mixed results, I'd say, so far. Many of these vendors just continue to function informally, but they might not be counted by authorities any longer. And the BMA also has to find the space. And Bangkok is a crowded place, right? So how do you create functioning spaces for food where people are and where these centres are needed? And then who also gets to decide which food vendors get to go where? So there are some financial and logistical issues. And maybe there's no rushing this. If you want to fundamentally change the way that food is sold in Bangkok, you do need to preserve history and culture while modernising the way that it's being done, keeping the streets tidy, but also making sure that this vibrant scene isn't totally gentrified. I think it needs to maintain its character because the character is what produces the flavour. And without that, then what are we left with?
A challenging balance to strike. And I find it interesting to see in some places in the world, North America, for example, there's almost this reverse engineering happening where there are increasingly more street food pop-ups and Bangkok-style stalls because officials want to bring more life back to the streets, right? Such a different
sense.
case in Thailand, yeah. Thank you very much for bringing this story to us, Jack.
I'm hungry now.
You
You better come over, Teresa, and we'll do a little food tour or something.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Teresa.
You can find Jack's stories on YouTube and CNA.Asia. And a reminder, the TV episode of CNA Correspondent airs every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Singapore, Hong Kong time. As always, thanks for joining me. I'm Teresa Tang. The team behind this week's episode is Saya Win, Clara Ong, Tiffany Ang, Junaini Johari, Pei Ning Ho, and Craig Dale. Bye for now.